Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Quest Like a Pro. I'm Noah, I'm the founder of Purple Shadow Gaming, and I'm joined as always by Andy and Justin. Hey Andy, hey Justin, how are you all?
Doing good. Pretty good. Thank you.
We also have two special guests. We have Corbin. Hey Corbin.
Hello.
And then we also have Luke, who are team members of Purple Shadow Gaming. And today we're going to focus primarily on how did DLC Milwaukee go? What's our reflections post coming off of the Set 9 Pinnacle tournament? What did we learn? What are we taking forward as we head into Set 10 meta? So let's start there. How did Milwaukee go? What was the overall maybe vibe of the tournament and kind of just general reflections? Luke, we'll start with you.
So I had a pretty good tournament. Went 4-4 at the very end, but honestly, it was just so great getting to support Andy throughout the whole tournament as he went at a really great record of 8-0 in the day one. And so it was just so cool seeing a team member doing so well in a DLC.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk all about that run. You kind of spoiled it a little bit, but that's okay. That's okay.
Sorry.
We're going to build up to it. But speaking of Andy, how was the overall vibes of the event?
So first, I want to say the staff, the Lorcana staff there, the judges, they were all really great. I think they had a hard task to work with Ravensburger's Play Hub, but they did it with grace. They were always very helpful. They answered questions. So I got a really good vibe. I think it was just a really impossible task for them to use this system that's still in beta, in my opinion. But overall, I think the vibes were great with the staffing. There's a lot of people there that I got to see again from previous DLCs, so it's just always nice to reconnect and be like, oh, how's everything going after 8 months of not seeing each other?
Yeah. It's really cool. I think we go to a lot of events. We went to CCS. Some of us went to PPG. There's these other things, but there's nothing like a DLC that I've experienced in Lorcana. There's something special about it. There's such energy from the cosplay to just the volume of people there. There's just a vibrance that I think is unique to DLCs. And to be frank, we hadn't had a DLC in almost over a year that I had attended. I think there was one that I missed, which was in Seattle. I think it was in November of last year. So just under a year since that happened. But really Vegas was the last big DLC that I went to outside of Nationals, but Nationals was its own special little butterfly gem of an experience. And it was great to be back at a DLC. So I definitely echo what you said, Andy. Corbin, what about you? How was the vibes?
Yeah, I think the vibes were good. I think we kind of knew what we were expecting and some of the struggles that we might run into going in, but I think overall the vibes were really good. Like Andy said, the staff was great. The venue was pretty fantastic. There was plenty of places to eat and, bathrooms and it was comfortable as far as playing and sitting. As you mentioned, it's great seeing the full spectrum of people. There was people with family and kids that were there. There were a lot of content creators and obviously on that side of things. And that was another cool thing is a lot of them did really well, kind of content creators and pros as you would put them to alike. So it's nice seeing everyone kind of at those top tables and people performing on day two and people flew in from Europe to play as well. So that was really cool. So I think seeing kind of that's what a DLC I think to me is all about is that full spectrum of people. There's the people that are maybe just attendees and running the side events to just ultra competitive and just having everyone together and meshing and just kind of the energy being high and everyone being hyped for all the tight games at the end and all that was really cool. So I definitely do miss that I don't think you have at even some of the smaller, more regional tournaments like PPG or CCS.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we get into the next question, Justin and Katie. Hey, Katie, welcome. Katie is a honorary member of Purple Shadow Gaming, but this weekend she was critical. So we're glad that you are here to reflect on the weekend with us. We had such an incredible weekend just as a team, but Justin, Katie, how was the vibes for you going back to a DLC?
It was really of exciting going back to a DLC after such a long, or what felt like such a long break. And we had had that period of uncertainty of when will there be DLCs? And like, you saw people kind of like fluctuating in terms of their desire to stay in competitive play based on what we were hearing. So I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like going into season 2. And it was great to be there. I think, just echoing the sentiments that others have already shared, there was really good energy in the space, just seeing everyone together. And it was a lot of fun being with all of you guys and getting to be kind of like an honorary PSG member for the weekend. I talked to Justin that previously, traveling to DLCs last season, a lot of times it kind of felt like I was with just he and I, or maybe I was, meeting up with other people that I knew virtually. And this felt like a different experience of seeing like, oh, this is like a team coming together and going to the event. And it was really neat to get to be a part of that for the weekend.
Well, we're so grateful you were a part of the weekend and specifically Friday night, but we're going to come back to Friday night in just a minute. Justin, vibes, DLC, Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's great to be back at a big event. I don't leverage the CCS and other large like PPG events as much as other members on the team do, and get those reps that I'd really like to kind of lean into next year. And I think later in the episode probably we'll talk a little bit more about the reps. So it's nice to get back there and get more reps in at that large level. It's nice going in with feeling more experienced and feeling more ready. And then I really like the whole day 2 qualification, kind of giving you a way to win without winning. So you feel like you accomplished something. You go there you travel way out there. You're there and you put all this effort in. Like for me, I grind really hard on it, and then I got something out of it. Right? I didn't make top 32, but I made day 2, and I feel like I accomplished something, and I got something out of it. And so I really liked the new setup compared to what it was before. So I'm really, really excited for the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations are in order for Justin. Justin went 6-2 on day 1 to make it into day 2, and then grinded it out and finished out day 2, not making, top cut as you mentioned, but still an incredible accomplishment. And so we're so grateful for that and excited to cheer you on, Justin. Andy, we'll get back to you. We're not even gonna talk about you. Your experience was too good. No, but seriously, Andy went 8-0 on day 1, as Luke mentioned, which is just an incredible feat. I think there was 8 people, something like that, going into day 2 that were X and O, which is just like no matter how good you are and how the experience, it's such a magical thing to be able to just run through that and be able to get there. Huge congratulations are in order. Andy was able to go 10-0 on the weekend and then draw into top 32, which is just an incredible feat. And we're gonna physically celebrate. Again, if you're not watching YouTube, you're missing everything. So this is how we celebrate with my coaching clients. You got to clap above your head. It's part of it.
Love it.
It feels silly. It feels silly, but it's so impactful to embody celebration. And Andy, you deserve nothing less than embodied celebration on the weekend. Let's get back to Friday night. So we arrive in Milwaukee. We're loving DLC life. Some of us had arrived on Thursday, which was awesome, right? Part of the adventure of going to a DLC, and I would encourage those that haven't yet been a part of this, is it's not just about the Lorcana. It's about the travel, being with friends, being with others, etc., and being able to kind of make a weekend out of it, which is really cool to be able to do.
Yeah, I would echo that. Milwaukee, I wouldn't ever think of as a place that I would want to go to just on my own, just had to make it a vacation out of it. But
Corbin, for those listening that were like me, where is Milwaukee?
It's close-ish to Chicago, but most people I think would probably rather go to the Chicago area than the Milwaukee area. But I think it's an hour away. But yeah, we even thought about let's just go into Chicago the first day and spend time there instead of Milwaukee. But I'm glad that we went into Milwaukee. It was a great experience, definitely pleasantly surprised. So I just want to echo what you were saying of these DLCs are kind of getting us out to places that we may not visit normally, and just being able to see the local scene and kind of explore the town was huge.
Yeah. And so Andy, Luke, and I traveled in on Friday morning, but you, Corbin, Justin, Katie, Zach, who wasn't able to join us on the call, really experienced just the town. And I think what's so cool is like, even on Friday when we fly in, we meet up for lunch, we're like hanging out playing Lorcana in like a random public market. And there's like 3 other tables playing Lorcana in this public market.
Yeah.
It was a sweet market.
Yeah. Yeah, that was it. That's cool. Like,
cool.
yeah, it seemed like the whole town came alive with Lorcana. Almost every other place we went to, either you could hear people like talking about it or playing it, so that was cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. I think there were 2 types. There was actually 3 types on the weekend. There were the people playing Lorcana. There were the people questioning why there were people playing card games that they didn't understand. And then there were the people there waiting for the concert to start in the middle of Milwaukee.
And the wedding
which
group.
is like a whole different group. And then there's the wedding group, which we're not even going to get into on this podcast. But if you are listening and you do have an Anna foil, you know who you are. But it was incredible. It was a great weekend. So we met up with you all kind of around lunch on Friday, and then just got to spend time with you all, like as a team. We talk a lot here. We all live somewhat locally, but I think this idea of being able to spend dedicated time with people that also love this game that you love in a different city and just like be embedded in it was just truly incredible.
Absolutely.
After lunch, we went and waited in a line, which anything that is Disney related, you should expect to wait in a line, except without the magical experiences of Disneyland and lines. But the line wasn't that bad. It was fun. We got a lot of great pictures. We might even share a few of those on the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube only, you might see a photo right now that we took while we were waiting in line. But it was great. We got checked in. We felt the energy of the room. We did all of that. And then we went to dinner, which you should always do before a DLC, is eat, because eating's important. We had some cheese curds to kick us off, which was a Milwaukee staple.
Wisconsin, yeah.
Yeah. And then something magical happened. And I'm going to kick it over to Justin and Katie. You all choose who decides on how to tell this story. But we did something really interesting on Friday night. What did we do?
Well, I'll lead in and let her tell. So but before Milwaukee, there was lots of like, oh man, there's no lunch break. Like, oh man, oh, we got to deal with the Ravensburger Play Hub. Like, oh man, this, right? It was just so many like possible negative vibes we could possibly take. And we're like, that's not going to be us. We're going to let other teams burn their energy on that. We're going to stay in the moment. Yep. And so just leading into that, this is part of the vibes was this Friday night getting ready, getting all jazzed for it. And she can kind of walk you through what we did.
Yeah, so it actually goes back to one of the other DLCs in Seattle. Justin and I had arrived a little bit early, and we went over to Bainbridge Island and wandered around and ended up in this like wonderful little tea shop with kind of like a little bit of like witchy vibes, very Seattle-esque. And we get some tea, and then she was like, hey, here's this deck of spirit animals. And we were getting ready to play the DLC in Seattle, and she was like, pick a card, that speaks to you. And we loved the experience so much that I bought the deck, and that prompted us to be like, hey, last minute packing, I'm putting this in, like, this is going with us to the DLC. This is like going to be our DLC thing. And we brought it out to dinner. Actually, I think we carried it with us through that whole day. And Justin was kind of like, okay, I'll figure out when like the time is right to bring it out. So we pulled it out at dinner time and went through a process of having everyone select from this card deck a spirit animal. And then there's a little guidebook that talks about each animal and some of their strengths and, how to harness their energy.
Yeah, we really, so the idea is that you kind of lean into your intuitive side and like you really manifest like the question or the answer that you're looking for. And I really felt like I certainly leaned into that the whole weekend. And if there was ever a manifesting that ever happened, I didn't miss ramp in one game for 14 matches. And I think I think that's somewhere in the range between 14 and I don't know. I can't do the math right now, but like lots of matches. And I was like, I'm not missing ramp. Not happening. I just manifested it. So it was the same vibes. And like, I think that held true for Andy as well.
Yeah. So you at least played 24 games, but I think you probably played closer to 30 and you didn't miss ramp, which is insane.
That's just
And there's
crazy.
like 200 Blurple players that were also at DLC in Milwaukee that are currently deleting this podcast because of that.
Positive vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the unicorn, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
put it right in my
Katie,
app.
you were about to add something to that.
I was saying that Justin had the idea of using the cards. So if anyone played against this group over the weekend, most of us used our cards in some way and took them with us to the tournament. So, whether it was just like out on the table or, Noah talked about potentially embodying his inner cheetah. Justin used his as his card deck to mark, what was his hand.
Yeah. There was all sorts of things. And if you're curious what this looks like, look right now. You can see my face, which is a face of what it looks like when Purple Seal is being beaten up on by Blurple. But you'll also notice if you zoom in a little bit carefully, you'll see that there's a cheetah sitting on top of my hand, which is minimal because, again, I'm losing. But that's what we mean. Those are the spirit animals. It was with us the whole weekend. I think it was really special. So Katie and Justin, thank you for sharing that experience with me and us and our team. And I think we talked about a lot of like mindset principles going into the DLC that go beyond what deck do you choose and like do you know your play lines and like what are your matchups and all of these different things, which is just like, hey, there are things you can control and there's things that you can't control. Any energy you spend on things you can't control is energy like ill spent, to be frank. And so whether it's Play Hub or this or that or the other, like you're just wasting energy. And so we really wanted to focus in on that. And so I'd encourage those that are like, why have we spent 10 minutes talking about this? Like, this is a Lorcana podcast. This is about Lorcana. Like, this podcast is about leveling up and you being a competitive player. And half of that, once you get to a certain mindset, or once you get to a certain level, is your mindset, like how you show up, how you surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you and encourage you throughout the tournament. And so this is part of leveling up. And so we wanted to make sure we included it because it was truly special heading into DLC Milwaukee. Okay, my rant is over. Now we're going to get into Lorcana. So before the people, what did you all play? And why did you decide to play that? You have 1 minute. Go. Corbin.
Yeah, I took Purple Steel. Well, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle against Blurple. I knew it was a winnable matchup, and I also just valued familiarity with the deck, and just also ultimately being a deck and I enjoy playing, and the matches I enjoy playing, which I think is like what to your point earlier of like control the controllables, and I like to play this deck, and I like the way it plays, so I wasn't. Then that kind of trumped everything
else. I love that. Thank you for staying within a minute. If we were the Golden Globes or whatever, we would donate to charity because you saved time or whatever. But we're not. We're not donating to charity on this episode, except for kicking it to Justin. Justin, what'd you play?
I played Blurple. I was nearly on Purple Steel. Kind of Corbin set me off on Friday night. We played a little
Corbin
bit of
choosing to play Purple Steel made
Purple
you
Steel
choose Blurple.
matchup versus Purple Steel. And it can become very RNG-esque. You hit the 4 cost draw. It feels pretty bad if the other person doesn't do it. And I chose my matchups for the weekend. I chose to not have Purple Steel mirrors and not have to face Blurple on Purple Steel. And the other side, what I chose, and we've talked about this in prior episodes, was choosing what we want our experience to be. And the experience I wanted was the most negative experience would be Blurple into dogs. That's what I chose to take, and I was okay with that. I just assessed the meta, and I determined how often I'd probably hit that, and I figured I was okay into Amber Steel as long as I was on the play, and so that's what I chose. And sure enough, day 2 first matchup hit dogs, and part of making day 2 and it being you kind of getting that little bit of a taste of a win really helped put like the right taste in my mouth, as like I didn't much care what happened the rest of the day because I felt like I accomplished something, and I chose that. I chose this. I knew this could happen. It would have been better if it happened the prior day. And I got the experience I wanted. I liked it. And so I'm really happy with my choice.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we'll keep with this frame. Katie, what did you choose to play in the main event?
I brought Amber Steel, knowing that there would likely be a lot of that was a decent matchup for me. It's also an ink combination that I feel fairly comfortable with. I had attempted dogs for a hot minute and still had dogs built by the time we were getting ready to pack. And so I was like, I don't have time to pack and redo my deck. Justin, please rebuild my deck. And he did. And he's like, I'm going to make a few changes. And thank goodness we did some play testing once we got there, because I was like, wait, why is Sleepy still in my deck? Sleepy's not supposed to be in my deck. So we had brought some extra cards with, and I was able to get it all sorted out before. But yes, it was Amber Steel Bodyguards.
Nice.
Amber Steel Bodyguards. I love that. For those keeping score, yes, Katie is an honorary member of Purple Shadow Gaming, and she was not playing Amethyst, which
No.
we'll
That's why
have
she's
to
still
talk to
honorary.
her.
That's why she's
Talk to her.
honorary, for sure. Yeah.
Talk to her
It's my
agent
Amber
about
Heart.
that. Yeah. I feel like it's like, I'm trying to think through this. Like, it's like if you were a Yankees fan. No,
No,
this
don't-
isn't
don't
going to
do the
work.
baseball.
Move along.
Move along.
Luke, what did you play and why?
Okay. I played Blurple. Because I'd been playing it for a long time. I played it for all the time period from after Huron ban forward. And so I just had the most reps on it. And so I just felt the most confident. And
I love that.
I knew that there's going to be a lot of purple steel. So I felt really confident of that. And I felt that I could be doing pretty well into the Blurple matchup. Just hopefully I was just hoping I didn't run into aggro. Fortunately happened twice on my day one, which was not the greatest, but sometimes it's just how it works.
Yeah. And that's the right mindset to have, right? Like, you can't control your matchups fully. You have to project and pick your game plan. Justin, you mentioned that. Corbin, you mentioned that. Luke, you mentioned that. I chose to play Purple Steel. Again, we are Purple Shadow Gaming, so clearly I played Purple. I chose Steel as my complement instead of Sapphire. Really, again, for the same reason Luke said, which is I had spent the most time during set 9 meta really focused on that. And I had won the set champs. I had done well at a 3K. I had as many reps as I could on that. There was a time on Wednesday prior to the DLC, which I was probably in the same boat Justin was, which was like, I cannot beat Blurple with this deck, and I'm going to hate my life if I get paired into 3 Blurples, which I did on day 1, and just lose to all of them, because we're not all like Andy. Separate story. And I would have switched to Blurple, but I think the lesson here that I think is helpful for other people is the reason I didn't was because I did lean into the fact that I knew the lines better than any other deck playing Purple Steel. I knew the matchups. I knew this. I knew what, the challenges running into Blurple. I thought I had a strategy in the Blurple, to try to maybe squeak out a win here and there. I felt very confident to every other single deck, including the mirror match. And I just rolled the dice. And so I stuck with what I knew because I felt like that was actually the better decision than switching to something that I thought was actually a better deck, but I would have been a poor pilot. So I think Blurple would have been the better plane to fly in that moment. I would have just been a poor pilot for that. And so I'd rather be a better pilot of a meh plane rather than choosing the fast plane and just crashing it. So that was my decision making on my side. We'll kick it over to Andy. Andy, what did you choose to play and why?
I chose to play Purple Steel, and my first decision was because my pet deck has always been Blurple, but it became the top tier 1 deck, and I hate playing tier 1 decks. So I always want to play against it. I want to find a way to be able to beat the top deck. So luckily I have a great coach, JDRR, and he was like adamant about finding the on the draw Purple Steel list that is most favored into it. And I think just getting those reps, feeling comfortable, and knowing that aggro and other steel decks would be there, it gave me the most percentages into the field after teching towards Blurple.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, those are the decisions you make, and you have to make those decisions once you get to the upper levels of what game do you want to play on any given Saturday, and let the dice roll. And Andy, I'm going to stick with you for a minute because we already alluded to you going 8-0 on day 1. What was a moment that stood out to you that you never really want to forget?
It was definitely a play and an emotion. We talked about the spirit animals, but it was round 7. I played against a Sea Dogs Scrump deck, and it was I wasn't prepared for that matchup because I was like I said, I was practicing against Purple Steel mirrors because that's what we play in the flower form, and then Blurple. So green, yellow, I knew I was favored in it, but I didn't have to practice that. So in round 7, important match, I'm trying to get 7-0, and I was hand stuck. I had a lot of uninkables. I had 2 Docs, Calhoun, and I had to make a choice. And I felt like this choice was either to skip my turn or just like play the odds. I knew I had 3 Skater Mims in the deck, so I played a dock and discarded my 2 cards, and I draw 2, and I find the Mim, the first card. And I was like, the math was perfect. I just needed 1 damage on each of my characters to wipe his board. Otherwise, I would clear like 2 things out of his 6. But luckily, since I drew that Mim, his board was gone, and he was just like, that was the play that got you that game. And I was like, I'm glad that's why I'm glad I chose that play and the odds, and I did the numbers, and I was like, all right, this is how I win, and kind of manifested that card like we talked about with the spirit animals guiding us, and like I just knew that Mim was coming.
I think we were all
love
there
that.
for that. I think we all watched that happen. Actually, we saw you pull it off the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an
Yeah.
incredible moment when you make those plays and like you're like, yep, there it is.
Vibe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Andy, we'll spend a lot more time with you as we go through the conversation. But Corbin and Luke, starting with Corbin, any holy crap moments, good or bad, that stick with you?
I think,
And they don't have to be holy; they can just
Yeah.
be crap moments as well.
yeah, I mean,
We're not biased here.
my first matchup was against a purple steel mirror, and I saw 2 strengths total between 2 matches, and my opponent saw like 3 in each match, and even him at the end of it is like, dude, where's all your strengths? And I'm like, I don't know. So that's kind of like, but you had to bounce
Those
back.
are fighting words.
Yeah,
in a purple
exactly.
steel mirror. Like, where's your strength, bro?
Yeah, it's just
It's like,
when your
that's
opponent
rude.
has sympathy for you, right? It's a certain,
Yeah.
if it makes you feel a certain way. So, but I think like trying to bounce back from that initial like variance or whatever, but trying to like think about it and think maybe there's probably ways I could have still kind of mulligan differently or did some play lines differently after that. I think as we mentioned, kind of just kind of focus on what's ahead of us and not dwell too much on just the previous game is kind of where my mind's at. But that definitely was a tough initial sting in the start.
Yeah, for sure. And quite the recovery you had. Again, didn't end up going the way that you would probably hope, and and at the end of the day, but being able to recover from a first round loss is tough. I know that personally, and I lost round 1 as well. But before we get into that, Luke, what was your holy crap moment?
So it was round 3. I'm 2-0. So I'm feeling pretty confident. It's blurple. And in the matchup, it's really important to be able to draw cards and keep your hand full so that you can keep placing down threats and have answers to remove their threats. And my opponent saw a total of 3 second stars across the 2 games that we played, and I saw a total of 0, which was really detrimental to the game because if I can't draw cards, then I can't have enough gas or momentum to keep playing cards and removing their stuff. And it's really hard to play when your opponent has 6 cards in hand and you have 2. So that was the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So you went 2-1, but then was able to recover, and obviously didn't again go your way. Went 4-4, but still incredible lessons learned to be able to say, hey, like this match didn't go the way I wanted to. What was my controllable, which is how I respond. There's this great I think it's a Buddhist proverb about the second arrow, which is basically like, hey, you get hit with the first arrow, you can choose how to respond to that, or you can allow the second arrow to hit you, which is basically your own critique of why you got hit by the first arrow. And the challenge is like, you can't control the first one, but you can control how you respond to the first one. And Luke, Corbin, I think those are great examples of how you were able to recover from that. And I felt that too. So like Corbin, in your case, I had a similar matchup where I played against a favorable. I was playing against green blue. I felt very confident. I was playing Pete in my purple steel deck. I was really excited. I alter correctly. I keep Genie, a 2-drop Jafar, 1-drop Happy. I'm super stoked. It's round 1. Game 1, we're having a blast. And I draw the cards off the top, which I normally don't do, by the way. So I don't know what was going on. It just might have felt spunky or something. Normally I deal 4, like whatever number of cards face down, and I pick them all up at the same time. And so I draw card 4, Doc. I'm like, awesome. I love that. Next card, Doc. I'm like, don't love that. Next card. Any guesses?
Doc, for sure.
Doc.
Always a Doc.
4th card. Any guesses?
Genie,
No way.
Genie.
No way.
Happy, which looks like Doc. It's so annoying. I was I was so grateful at that moment for like how centered we were and everything about that, because I was like, in this moment previously I would have just lost my I'd be like, Okay, just pack it up, go hang out with the vendors, maybe volunteer at the side carts, you know,
Volunteer
like
work.
serve some tacos, some chicken fingers. Like that would have been my weekend if I wasn't centered. But I was like, Doc, happy? I am not happy about this decision. So I definitely feel it. That will be the memory I have, which is just like, man, that's so brutal. The other memory I will mention before I kick it over to Justin and Katie is I was able to, and we're not going to say what I said in the moment, Katie, about what happened,
I know where this is going.
because that's not okay. But I was able to challenge a Tiana without paying Tiana tax because I had a Mim on board. And so my Cobra was able to hit into Tiana for 2. And then my 3/4 Genie was able to hit in for 1. And then my Calhoun was able to hit in for 1. And I just had enough damage to attack into Daisy for 4, Daisy into 4. And I had played Elsa to tap Tiana because I had to basically put myself in a Tiana trap. And then Tiana was able to kill, or Elsa was able to kill Doc. So I was able to clear his whole board without ever paying Tiana tax, even though I chose to tap Tiana because he was at 18. And if I left Tiana untapped and he opened up and quested, I lose the game. And that was an incredible moment. Like it was an incredible emotional moment. Justin, Katie, what moments stood out for you during the weekend? Not even just day one, but maybe something that stood out to you that you'll never forget in your gameplay.
That this is really necessary to my gameplay, but I won the round 1 game, and I know that the pairings initially like don't mean much. So I was in table like 800s or something like that. And then I got my round 2 pairing and I was at table 5. And I was like, this feels wrong. Like I'm not used to being up here. I'm not quite the grinder that you guys are, though I enjoy being competitive. So that stood out to me that I was like, what am I doing? And then I think just again going with this theme of the intuition and trusting the process. There was a match where I had Tiana in hand, and then I drew a Tiana, and then the next card I drew was a Tiana. And I was like, clearly my deck is telling me what it wants me to do. Like this needs to happen. We're just going Tiana crazy right now. So that was kind of fun. That was like, oh, I hear you, deck. I got it. Got it. We're making this play.
I love that. And sometimes you got to listen to that, right? You're dealt the cards you have and you got to just like play them, right? That's part of the game. Justin, what about you? What moment sticks out for you in the gameplay that you're going to take forward forever?
I think I'll keep on some of that theme. There's so much to take away from it, and I would just repeat that like the reps of the big event are really important, and some things that I'm trying to remember and keep in focus as we all like positively vibe in the right direction is that this is a card game and that there is luck and that I don't have to apologize for my luck. I become empathetic and I feel sorry when I get like really good luck and I beat someone. I'm like, I'm sorry, man, I top decked that. Like, I don't have to. No, I don't have to. That's how it happens. Earlier on in the day, my only O2 was they were totally beat. There were no evasives on board. They had like a basil, an elephant, and a bell. No cards in hand, and I had evasives on board, and they top decked the second star, and then they hit an ITU, erased some of my evasives, and then it steamrolled, right, and more bad luck happened, and I just didn't let that get me down early on in the tournament. And then later in the tournament, it happened to me. I was in everything I could and trying to establish a board, and they just kept erasing my board. I was on the play, and it just kind of like, as many people have probably experienced playing purple in this set, like on the play is usually feels a little awkward, usually inking bad things. That one card makes a big difference. And they just kind of kept erasing stuff. And then I think I had something like elephant whale on board. And they had just a brick of just a whole bunch of cards in hand. And I top decked second star. And then I just went crazy and then ended up getting that. That allowed me to go 8-3 to keep my top 64 alive. And so it's just realizing that there is variance, that like I got to stay in it. Like if I had not stayed in it, let that first match really get me down, I never would have had enough mental fortitude or focus or strategy to get myself to the point where I could top deck that second star and keep myself alive. So it's just remembering to stay in the right mindset.
Yeah, I love that. truly think that's the lesson I took out of this, is like how you go into it, how you're showing up in it, how you're reflecting afterward is totally about mindset, right? And I'm grateful that each of you, Corbin, Luke, Justin, Katie, Andy, like emphasizing that, and Zach too, who couldn't be with us today. Like we've been reflecting on that all week. And I think that's just super impactful and is going to infuse into our future results. Andy, you were one of the only 2 players in the entire event to go 10-0.
Yep. It felt surreal.
My next part of the question, what did that moment feel like? Which you already answered. What did it mean to you? You're 10-0. First feature match was round 10.
Round 10, yes.
Round 10, you're playing into Amber Steel with Purple Steel, which again is favorable match.
Mm-hmm.
You win game 1, great. Everyone loves winning game 1.
Oh, yeah.
You lose game 2. Game 3's interesting. For anyone who hasn't watched it, go back and watch it. Game 3's interesting. You didn't have the greatest start, from what I recall, and he had a pretty solid start. And then he just kind of ran out of gas, and you were able to maneuver him in a way that was like phenomenal to watch. And then you finish and you submit the results.
Yeah, after that moment, I just went back and thought about the goal I set after Vegas. Vegas, Atlanta, I got 44, 45 points. I think I was like 80th in Atlanta. I got to let it go. Then I think I was 128 in Vegas, right? Because I think you saw the standings, and you're like, at least you got to let it go. And I was like, yeah, but I really wanted day 2. I really wanted that top 64. And I think after that moment, I was like, I want to get there. I want to get to day 2. I want to make top cut. I want to get that invitation. So I looked to learn. I don't know. I feel like I'm very humble, and I always ask questions. I try to converse with people, and I saw out one of the better players that's never played the game, and I was like, hey, can we do something? Can we make this happen? And he's like, yeah. And he asked me, he's like, what do you want from this? And I was like, I want to make day 2. He's like, sounds good. We'll make day 2. And from there forward, every word he said, I would challenge, or I would listen. I would hear him in my head. After that match, I was like, all this work paid off, and I made it. So it meant a lot. It meant everything. I did put in the work. I feel like I have a pretty busy life. I know we all do. Actually, before this podcast, we were in our testing session, me and Justin, and they're like, oh, what's your Lorcanito rank? And I was like, I'm not ranked. He's like, wait, what? And they looked it up, and they're like, you played like 1 or 2 games in like the last 3 months. I'm like, yeah, I have school, work, life. The only time I play is with you guys. And they're like, that's an unbelievable. Like, I'm like, yeah, that's why I try to be active on Discord. I try to ask questions. Theory craft, that's my favorite thing to do, because it sets you up. It sets you up for success when you do see those boards. You mentioned the Amber Steel game. There was a moment I had strength. I top deck strength. I didn't strength anything though, because I didn't want to. There was nothing that was a threat. And I thought, there's no reason to strength. Let him play a Tiana. Let him play something that's actually a threat. I think he had 2 daisies, 2 troubadours, and a Mulan. And I was like, I'm not going to strength a daisy. It's going to give me cards. I'm not going to strength a Mulan or a troubadour. And I think in that moment, I was like, I'm in control of this game. Like, I'm not losing this. Whatever he does, I have an answer. I really prepped in advance. So I just like turned sideways, made him do what he needed to do. He strengthened me with the troubadour I didn't remove. But then he played a threat. I killed the threat, and then I just took it over. And that's when he kind of basically just scooped. So yeah, it's just those tiny decisions that paid off.
Yeah, an incredible run. And I think one thing that I think was like pretty prominent in day 2, even amongst our team, but even amongst other Arizona players that were really in the running. Shout out to the Dave, who is an ex-Phoenix player who's now in the DC metro area, but will always be Phoenix in our hearts.
Yep.
He also made day 2, but there were a few other players, even just within our community outside of Purple Shadow Gaming, that were in it. And there was one of them, his name is Eddie, just an incredible player, incredibly disciplined, comes from a strong TCG background, a grinder at heart. And we were talking about your situation where you were 10-0, and it's like, what do you do from here, right? Because you can draw in, you can lose in, you could like, nothing prevents you from being at top cut once you hit 10-0 in this tournament. And he was just like, what is your goal? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And I think, yes, he was pointing that at you, but I think it like reverberated through the rest of our group in a way that's like, what is our goal? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Like, why are we here? And it reminds me back to Friday night where we're like, why are we here? That was a big question I asked, which was like, why do I even play Lorcana? Like, I don't, like, what am I after? Like, like,
That was the
what's
question
the
you asked
vibe?
before you pulled your card.
Yeah.
And I gave you a
And I'm
cheetah.
like, and they're like, just run as fast as you can.
Just run away, run away.
Just go. It's not for you. Just keep going. But like, I think that was such a powerful thing. And you shared that in your story, which is like you set out on a goal and you pursued that. The scoreboard only keeps track of what the scoreboard can keep track of. Only we can keep track of like what we set out to do and how well we did against that. Justin, you reflected on this. Like, I set out to do this and I feel like I showed up and did that, right? Scoreboard doesn't show that. Shows you got X place, right? Like, Luke, you went 4-4, but you're able to reflect positively on how you responded positively after a loss. You went 2-0, you lost, you played again the next game. You treated every game as game one. Like, that matters. And so, Andy, I really appreciate that. Is like, I think we can highlight and celebrate like these massive elevations, but it's like, what did you set out to do and you accomplished that? And so if you're listening to this and you didn't go 10-0, which you probably didn't unless you're Diego,
Diego's
actually, for a
insane.
matter of
Shout
fact,
out.
only level 9,000 can
Yep.
say that they also went 10-0. You still accomplished something. And I think that's what we try to want to emphasize. And that's what we're talking about. And Andy, you leveled up, you set with it out with intention. You achieved that and like, love it.
Thank
So
you,
well
thank you.
deserved. We can't wait to cheer you on at Nationals. And not only you, maybe other people on this podcast at Nationals as well in August. It's going to be really exciting. We're coming towards kind of the end, but what's the biggest takeaway that you're walking away with that's going to shape your next tournament prep? And I did not prepare any of these questions ahead of time. So these guests are hearing this for the first time.
I'll go first. I think kind of reflecting on the DLC in kind of the last maybe couple weeks, I did pretty well at set champs. I won a set champs, got top 4 in another one, but I think I just kind of got complacent a little bit in this meta. It started to feel kind of like stale of like, I knew what the decks were trying to do and like their ideal line. So like Blurple, like Genie Elsa Bell, right? Like I knew that was coming. And I think instead of trying to like adapt and find play lines to help me get out of those situations, I kind of just, and also like focus on other parts of the game that maybe give me point advantage, even if they did do that. I kind of just sort of accepted those plays. And so when they happened, especially at the DLC, Blurple is 2 of my losses, is just like, okay, well, that's just what I was expecting. And it did happen. And like, that's just where we're at. I think going into next set, I'm going to try and like not get complacent on those. And also, play cards that kind of more intrigue me. I don't know if that's the right word, but like looking at Frank's winning deck list, right? There's a lot of one-offs and, he kind of builds the deck in a way where, and he was kind of talking about it on a podcast I was listening about, that he's like, I have cards for a specific situation and Lorcana's mulligan is very forgiving. And obviously you can ink a lot of stuff and seeing the cards that you want to see for the particular matchup and kind of makes those matchups less stale and gives you more options in those matchups. So I'm going to try and that going forward, kind of channel that a little bit in both my deck building and also just like my playing throughout the.
I love that. And I think that leads into like my follow-up question I was going to ask, which is like what's one area, either technical or mental, you're committed to improving on before the next event?
Yeah, I think it's definitely that of just kind of improving on not getting stale in the play and the play lines and just constantly evolving and trying out different deck techs. To keep things spicy.
Yep. I think that's one of the downsides I see with some of the access we have to play so many games is that you can kind of fall in like, well, this is just how it goes. And then you do this and then you do that and you do this. And you forget that like it is a live game that you have to be like in to play.
Yes.
And so definitely hear that personally on my side. Katie, I'll jump over to you. What's the biggest takeaway that will shape your next tournament prep?
I think I'm in a slightly different category than a lot of you guys on the team, at least in this last set, maybe last couple sets, in that I haven't been in as much of the like competitive mindset. And so going into this tournament, I noticed that, I did prep a little bit and wanted to do well as I could, but I was being kind of like bounced back and forth between pairings that were with some of the players who are a little more casual and some of the players who are a little more competitive. And I found myself taking on kind of like a chameleon-esque aspect of myself that like, oh, when I'm with the casual people, I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm just doing this for fun. And then when I'm in the competitive, across from the competitive player, I'm going to take it seriously. And I was like, rather than me mirroring what's showing up, it's like, how do I really want to show up? And noting that even if I'm not maybe the typical grinder, like some of us stay up way too late playing all night long, that I can still go in and say, yeah, I want to be competitive and be in that space and aligned with myself and show up in that way, whether or not that's what I'm getting across from me at the table or not, that it's like, I do want to try this and try my best with where I'm at.
Love that. And we'll stick with this frame. Justin, what about you? What's the biggest takeaway that will shape your next tournament?
I think I'm going to lean more into the mental side of it. I think I get plenty of reps. I don't grind the ladder. I usually try out kind of like every deck and kind of get lots of losses from trying different decks. I see the lines, and then it shows me why some of the best decks are the best, and it kind of validates certain deck choices, and it shows the power of certain cards by playing other decks. But I get all of that exposure, and then I think the piece that is left for me is the mental mindset, which I've been great in other aspects of life, and so in this, just going to lead into kind of a little bit of what Trevor Moab kind of preaches. If you follow kind of high end sports coaching, he's got lots of books out there, and he kind of leans into the things that you vocalize. Give it more power, and the things that you don't vocalize, don't give it as much power. And so and if you've ever if you ever sat down at a craps table with a bunch of friends and there was great energy and great vibes, right? You're winning. And the dice you can't do anything but hit anything. But then when you try to reproduce it, right, you just try to make the money, right? The vibes aren't there and you don't win. You can manifest. Like there is a connection beyond what we can understand that you can, like, how are all these great players, like they're skilled, right? But there is a luck element, right? How does Tiger Woods win so much, right? It's more than just his skill. So manifesting is what I'm going to try and lean into a little more. And that's more of my focus for next DLC.
Awesome. Love it. Well, someone who didn't get the craps example, Luke. What are you taking out of this tournament and are going to then infuse in your tournament prep going forward?
Yeah, so for this one, I feel like I kind of with Corbin, I didn't get like a lot of time, or I guess kind of not. Corbin was really, he just kind of got like complacent. I didn't have a lot of, or I feel like I didn't have a lot of time to like practice as hard because I was very busy with schoolwork, trying to get everything done so that I could actually like skip days of school so I could go to the events. So next time I want to go to a tournament, I want to make sure like, especially on like the weekends, I want to try like really hard to like find a deck early and then just stick with it and just keep putting reps into that deck. Just become as good as I can with that deck so that I have the best shot at doing well at a tournament.
Can I
love
add to
it.
that real quick? Actually, I want to add something to some of that's has way more clout than me. And I got the chance to play next to Brian Cortade, the Rat, this weekend, and we got a chance to hang out together in Vegas. And great person. And one thing that
winner
he told,
of a DLC, like
Yeah.
there's not many winners of DLCs, but one Chicago, right?
Chicago, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that he told me when we were hanging out in Vegas was exactly what Luke just said, was to don't bounce around a bunch of decks. Stick with one deck and really learn it inside and out. So I just want to echo that real quick, and from someone else that's way better than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Brian.
Shout out to the Rat. Andy, what about you? Like, obviously this weekend went relatively well as far as day one, day two. You checked both check marks off. You made top cut. You qualified for U.S. Nationals. What are you taking out of this past weekend into your future prep that maybe is different than you walked in with?
I'd say it's more mental. I think before this tournament, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, do I belong at the top tables? Am I as good as I think I am? Because it's a balance, you know, you have to be humble, but you have to also be confident enough to perform because you want to manifest, you want to say you're going to do this, you're going to win, you're going to make there. And I think it happened when round 9, day 1 happened 8-0, and I was like, I'm still not in. Like, yeah, it's great, but like, I'm not in yet. I could go I can go 0-4 the next day and not make it in. So I was like, all right, who are the last? We talked about who are the last 8-0s, and one of them was DKP, and I was like,
World champion DKP.
I started messaging John, my coach, and I'm like, I might play DKP tomorrow. I'm probably playing DKP tomorrow. Yeah, I'm playing DKP tomorrow. And he's like, you're gonna win. You're gonna beat DKP. And he told me that in a private message, and I was just like, can I? And around 9 pairings happened. DKP. Everyone was like, you're playing DKP. I was like, I knew this.
But you're not just playing DKP. You're playing DKP, playing Blurple, and you're playing Purple Steel. And if anyone listening to this podcast understands what's happening in the world, that's not ideal on both accounts.
It's not. I knew he was on Blurple. And I was like, this is where my first loss happens, and I'm glad it's against the champion.
And then you lose the die roll, correct?
No, I win the die roll.
Oh, you win the die roll.
Did you choose to go second?
Okay.
No, I chose to go first.
Shh, Justin, don't tell people about that. Don't tell people about going second. Sorry, Andy, go back to your story. We're
win the dice roll. I go first. See 0 strengths until like 10 cards deep, and that's the point where I just need characters. I had nothing on board. I was at 18, I think, and I was like, I just need to play things. Top deck a strength. I guess I can do 1 damage to this Elsa, kill it. Top deck another strength. I'm like, it's over. And he beats me from there on. He's like, yeah, you didn't see your strengths. That's what happens. And he's like, he was a really nice guy. I'm glad he understands. He understands out of anyone variance. And I was like, all right, it's over. I couldn't get the lead with my on the play advantage. I see everything perfectly. Strength into a dock, into a strength. Game 2, beat him on the play. And on the draw, I was like, I practiced this match a million times with my team, with the sessions. And I tell him that. He's like, but you haven't played against a world champ. He told me that. And I was like, you're right. I haven't. He's confident.
DKP is going to light up our comments right now. And he's going to be like,
he told me that. And I was like, all right. And on the draw, I got it. I got it on the draw. I did everything I was supposed to do. Everything we practiced, keep him off star. He even said it afterwards. He's like, you did what you were supposed to do. You did it right. And I got it. If
you don't know about memes, I'm going to try to get the photo added right here. So I can't promise anything. But if you're on a podcast right now, you're missing it. And I think that's pretty clear. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the face of a winner and the face of someone who lost.
That meme. Oh, boy. I did not create that meme, DKP. I did not.
No, we're just going to show the original photo and let the audience like live their imaginations.
Yeah, so I got it on the draw. I won the dice roll, but I lost game 1. I got it on the draw, which is what we practiced for. And I felt like at that moment, I was like, I do belong here. Like after all this work, all the testing, just building that confidence up and just knowing that like if I have the right mindset and the right testing group partners and the right team with me, I can definitely accomplish top 32 and more.
Absolutely. Well, this is all we wanted to talk about on today's event. We're closing set 9 meta. We're going to say goodbye, thank goodness. And we're going to move into set 10 starting next week. There's release events happening on I guess it's on the 7th. We're going to be talking all about set 10 meta going forward. But I hope this episode felt different. If you've been following along, like I think one thing that was transformational for me after this weekend was truly understanding the elements of the game that are beyond the play. And we want to continue to bring that stuff to life around mindset, around having a good team around you, about setting goals, about being clear on what you want and how you're achieving that. Versus just winning. It's not about just winning. It's about accomplishing your goals and making incremental improvements over time on how you show up and level up your game. And that's what we're about here on Purple Shadow Gaming. And that's what we're about on Quest Like a Pro. And so if you love this episode, like, subscribe. We'll be back for more as we dive into gargoyles and Manny, like all sorts of weird stuff. Champions, like boost. Like, what is that? We're going to explore that all with you. So Luke, Corbin, Andy, Katie, Justin, and Zach, and Lucas, who are both not here from Purple Shadow Gaming, thank you all for being a support to me and helping to contribute to the content and community. Have a good night. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.